Hello, everyone. Today we are going to explore 3 ways that we can move out of surviving and into living our life authentically.
Hey everyone, I'm Nina Vasquez. I'm a trauma-informed coach, and I help adults heal from the imprints of trauma so they can actually start living and stop just surviving. The reason why I'm real passionate about this moving from surviving into living authentically topic is because for almost my whole life I was living in survival. I didn't know I was living in survival. And in my late 30s, early 40s, I became a life coach. I had been a coach for about 4 years, and I still didn't know I was living in survival mode. I remember the moment I figured out that my nervous system was in survival, and literally that moment changed the trajectory of my life. So what I was doing when I wasn't realizing I was in survival was I was inputting and consuming all the personal growth podcasts, the books, watching YouTube videos, learning from teachers and masters, but I wasn't actually implementing the change I wanted. I still was stuck. I was still in dark places in my life, experiencing depression, and honestly, I thought I was broken. I thought, man, something must be wrong with me. All these other people, even the life coaches that I was around, were getting results, and I wasn't. So I figured it must be me. And what I've learned is that you can't transform at just the level of the mind. See, what I was trying to do was I was just trying to change my thoughts. And if I changed my thoughts, then I could have a better life or get a different results. But I was actually disregarding the rest of my body that was living in survival mode. So we have to move from the mind to the nervous system and combine both mindset and nervous system. And now that's what I do in the world. That's my work in the world. And it's also the work I do for myself.
Mhm. And I'm Dr. Isela Garcia. I'm a spiritual teacher and an intuitive trauma healing guide and medium. And when I think about surviving, the very first thing I think about is my race to the finish line. This was sort of my journey from adulthood, like the moment I became an adult up until my entire life was this quest to accomplish all the things. And I didn't realize that was part of my stress response. I was trying to basically get to the place where I felt worthy. And I learned to do that by accomplishing things. And so, this race to the finish, I think, is something that many people, particularly women of color, have been given the message that we need to work hard and harder, twice as hard as anyone else. And we don't give ourselves permission to live, truly live, because we're racing to the next thing. And so this constant state of going really was a survival strategy for me. So I want to share a quote with you from Alok Menon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but if I'm not, I apologize. There was something they said that was really, I think, heart wrenching and heart like it tapped into something within me. I'm about to tell you a secret. The closet is not just for gay people. It's just that gay people were honest that we were closeted. Everybody's closeted and everybody plays pretend. And they all walk around saying, I am, even though they have no idea who they are. What they're often saying is, I want to make you feel comfortable. So I'm going to contort myself into who I think you want me to be. That is a form of injury that I, as a poet, could spend eons trying to write and never articulate the pain of feeling like the only way you can belong is by betraying yourself and shape shifting, knowing that that love is dependent on your self disappearance.
Whew. The word injury really sticks out to me in this moment. And this is not the first time I've heard this. Isela, you've shared this with me before. But in this moment, the word injury sticks out to me because My whole life, one of my stress and trauma responses was fawning or appeasing. Another way to say that is shape shifting to stay safe. And I never, I'm really touched and like in emotion. I just never thought of it as a form of injury.
Mhm.
I often think of people who have experienced childhood trauma specifically as like kind of walking around with an injury that nobody can actually see. And this is really touching me because if we don't identify the hidden or silent injuries, or we might call them our survival responses, will
Mhm.
always be in that, will always be there. Shape shifting is an example of that, of betraying yourself. But also, same with other responses, right? If I am just trying to be successful and climbing a ladder so I can get love, attention, affection, and safety, we're also abandoning ourselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea of being in the closet
Mm.
about who you truly are when you don't even know who you truly are, I think is such an integral part of this sacred journey. It's figuring out who you truly are without and releasing all of the stories that we've been told about who we should be. And I think that that's really, I think, the first step of moving into our personal awareness. So before we get started, I do want to share something that I think is critically important. What sets us apart, me and Nina doing this work, what sets us apart from others is that we honor your personal journey and what is true for you. Because what is true for us as individuals, and even how we see things, and even how we share our information or teachings, it really has to resonate with you. And I think that's what's different than a lot of teachers who are out providing support in the area of spiritual development, emotional regulation, and awareness of who you truly are. There isn't one way, there are many ways. There's a cultural context that comes into play, what you come with, your experiences that you've had, your belief systems. And what we do is we help you unearth or uncover your truth. What we're sharing with you is what we have found to work for us and for others, because we have worked with others. But the true key to this is helping you learn to go inward and to begin to trust your own inner guidance and inner wisdom. Now, I want to just tell you, if you're kind of going, I don't know what that is just yet, and I want to know the answers, because so many people want to know the answer. Just tell me the answer so then I know what to believe. That's not what this work is about. And that's not why you came here as a soul. You came here to unearth who you are and how you are going to support and contribute to the collective union, to the collective consciousness. So that's what makes us unique. And I hope that what we share with you today and all the other times that you connect with us resonates with you.
Thank you, Isela. So, as we go into the teaching, we invite you to take the information and not only sit with it, but question it, explore it all, question what we're saying. Don't believe us right away, but take it and see if you can just try on some of the things or practices that we're going to share with you and see if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, toss it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go into our teaching. We're going to teach you today 3 ways to move from survival to living authentically. Number 1, we must first start with how to shift from victim consciousness to manifestation consciousness. And a really short way to say that is we've got to look at your mind, your intellectual self, your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself and the world. We have to take a look at them, shine a flashlight on your belief systems. Many of our belief systems came from a time when we were very little, 0 to 7 or 8 years old. We didn't have a filter, and we just kind of said yes to everything that was around us. We also, our little brains gave meaning to experiences that happened to you and in the world around you. And I often like to say that we consented, like we said yes to a thought about ourselves or the world, or we said yes to the belief, and we did that without knowing. But now as adults, we get to consciously choose different.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think the other thing about victim consciousness that is really important to understand is part of the journey into actually moving from things happen to me to that I have the power to manifest. I have the power to choose. And in my choice, I can create the reality that I would like to experience. And the truth of it is, that's like only the second step. There's two other steps beyond that
Yeah.
in really aligning with the powerful beings that we truly are. And so that initial step of recognizing things don't happen to me, they happen for me, is such a critical part of this sacred journey.
Mhm. Mhm. And what we want you to know is that there's a way to do it. And one of the fun ways to do it is to start getting curious, bringing curiosity into your life about yourself, taking that like witness or the watcher stance of, I wonder why I believe this.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder shifts us from that energy of we know to like, huh, I wonder what would be different if I had a different belief system. Or I wonder why they believe that and I believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And getting, if you get curious with yourself, you will come to find out. Like, for example, I remember when I was doing this originally, questioning all my thoughts and belief systems, I found thoughts like, beliefs about men, about women, about the world around me, about money, about relationships, about myself. I found thoughts about myself that sounded like this. I'm broken. I'm not good enough. Right? Men are XYZ. Women are, right? So I found all kinds of different thoughts and I was like, "Wait, I wonder where did this come from?" And once I can start looking at, oh, I thought I wasn't good enough, and how did I create the world around me by believing that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And once you start to see that your thoughts and your belief systems affect the results of your life, you will start to see that, oh, I wonder what it would be like if I changed that.
Mm-hmm. I think the notion of curiosity energetically is very powerful because it opens your heart.
Mm,
So often, because we believe so strongly about our beliefs and our values and the stories that we've been told from the time that we were very young, we believe them and they become judgments. And so when we look at other people, we go, well, why are they doing that? Why they shouldn't be doing that? Don't they know that this is the way, or don't they know that this is what's going to happen in their life? And that state of judgment, just think for a moment, because everybody does it.
mhm,
Just think for a moment, someone that you have judged in the last 24 hours, just the last 10 minutes. Just think for a moment who you have judged. And when you think about this, when you bring that memory into play, just kind of tap into your physical body. And this is why our connection to physical form is such an important part of this process. But just tap in and go, okay, what does that feel like? Does it contract? Do you feel like, I mean, really, like, is there tension? What do your shoulders feel like? What does your stomach feel like? What does your throat feel like? Just tap into that and then shift it into an I wonder. I
mhm,
wonder what they might believe. I wonder what experiences they've had that led them down to this present moment.
mhm,
I wonder. And when you open your heart to that wonderment, to being curious, the energy changes. Your physical expression of those thoughts change. And
mhm,
so that emotional connection is in part one of the ways that we manifest is by aligning with this open energy. It's like energy that has more light attached to it, and
Mhm.
curiosity invites light in.
Yeah. Hmm. Curiosity, I always say curiosity and compassion,
Yes.
right? And one of the obstacles I personally ran into doing this was myself. I had a incessant self-critical voice, right?
Mm,
So it was so challenging for me to be curious because I would judge myself so harshly and I was full of toxic shame. So if you find yourself, you find it really challenging because you have this harsh inner critic, right? Um, know that it's normal because that part of you, AKA ego, the ego doesn't want you to change your thoughts, doesn't want you to change your beliefs, doesn't want you to shift your perspective of yourself or the world, right? It wants you to stay where you are. And so when if you bump up against a little bit of resistance to even getting curious or asking yourself those questions, just know it's normal. Okay.
mhm,
And the next steps, the next two steps, I think once you use the body, like Isela said, it's going to help you access more capacity to be curious, right? The body is the way. Another thing, too, for me personally, was I was always looking outside of me for an answer.
mhm,
That's where all that consuming came in. I must have had a belief system that like everybody else knew better than me, so I just need to keep bringing more information in and trying to learn from other people. So me personally, I had to stop consuming. And this is not going to be for everyone, but if you find yourself always consuming, and in a way of like I'm going to consume because I it's hard for me to be quiet with myself, it's a great idea for you to just take some breaks from consumption, even if it's 1 hour of like, let's see if I can be quiet and listen to myself and see what are these thoughts going on in my mind. I'm going to encourage that. Of course, you don't need to take it away all completely, but an hour here, an hour there. Let's see if I can be with myself. Even if you were just going to be with yourself during a mindful walk and you were not going to consume during that moment, it could be really helpful.
No, I think one of the things as you were talking, so in the beginning, when you're starting to like go, oh, there might be more to my experience of life, there I could, read this amazing book about learning more about self-awareness, right?
Mhm.
So you read the book and then you realize, oh my goodness, I think I like this, or I watched this video and I think I like this information. And so we start to open up something within us that shows interest in this. And I think that's a memory. I think that's a memory of our knowing, trying to speak up and say, yes, yes, go in that direction. So some
Mhm.
of us get really excited about it. Some of us are like, I want to get all of the information and read all of the books. And I think as for someone like you who's like going and going and going and let me get it all and I just want to know all of the things, maybe creating a system for yourself. So I'm going to read
Mhm.
this book, or I'm going to watch this video, and then I'm going to spend 10 to 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever works for you, just in contemplation. What have I learned from this experience? How does this change my mind about things? Or what does this make me think about, which was different than how I've lived my life? And then what do I do with it? What do I
Mhm.
do with this? How am I going to actually move this into my day to day practices? So
Yes.
maybe creating a system that works for you so that you're gathering information, but then going deep within to start to trust your own inner wisdom. I think it helps give space and time for integration. And that's what we don't spend enough time doing is integrating the information, and then it stays as information. We don't actually live it. Oh yeah, here are all the things I should eat on my way to get something that I should not eat. Right?
Yes, exactly. And we all know how that feels, right? I read this amazing book, I did nothing with it. I learned about this diet, I did nothing with it. So we want to move into integrating what we consume.
The Four Agreements is a really good example. Most people, not most people, I don't want to put that out there, but a lot of people have read The Four Agreements. Oh my goodness, I love that book. That was an amazing book. Do you live it? It's
Yeah.
four things, people. It's just four things. Do you live the four things? And most people are like, I can probably say that I've worked on one thing. So it's a
Yeah,
really good example. How are you going to integrate, give time and space to do that?
absolutely. Perfect example. Yeah. So before we move on to number two, is there anything else you want to add to, moving from victim consciousness to manifestation consciousness?
Okay, so one of the things that was really helpful for me is that I had this idea that there were so many people who were experts, right? This notion of like being the expert in, it could be spirituality, it could be education, it could be any of the things that you have interest in. Here's the expert, someone that I aspire to be like. And we sometimes, just because of the system that we are in, we put people on a pedestal. And we're like, oh my goodness, I'm one day going to be like that. And they have all their shit together. And in my work, in my professional career, you have no idea how many times I've come across people who I have looked up to, and not necessarily like in a way that, oh my goodness, I want to be that way. But they have so much to offer, and look at their amazing ability
Mhm.
to articulate, to be able to share stories, to be able to teach, whatever it was that I was interested in. And I realized that everyone is doing the best they know how to do, but people are kind of like schlepping through life.
Yes.
Not everybody, and I'm going to say spiritual teachers as well.
Mhm.
And they do a lot of teaching. We do a lot of teaching, and we're still figuring out as we go.
Yes.
And please always remember that. Don't look at somebody else and go, I want to be that, because that is what they show up as. But in the quiet of their own space, they too have ups and downs, emotional moments that they may not be able to regulate. Just know that we are all having a human experience, and that comes with ebbs and flows of all of the emotions.
Absolutely. And so there's this pedestal that we put them on up here. We want to take them off.
Mm-hmm.
We want to like see that, actually, we are all the same. I am you, you are me.
Right.
And if you see something that you admire in someone else, let it be a mirror to show you that you have that within you as well. You might not have fully developed it, but it's there. All right, moving on to number two. In this step, we're going to teach you to identify your survival strategies, to identify who you're not, but you had to become as a child to survive. Have you ever had to be the good girl
Mm.
or the good boy or perfect or had to be the successful one in your family or the responsible one in your family? I know I had to be the good girl growing up. A little good girl who keeps her legs closed, who keeps her mouth shut, who's seen and not heard. That's who I had to be.
And who I had to be was the one who, I was like looked at as a smart kid and got accolades and attention for doing well. And not necessarily from my home. So it wasn't that I got love, attention, affection from my mom. It's not that I got that from her, because it was an expectation. I didn't have like, oh, look at this, I did so well. It was always like, you could have done better, right? So it wasn't that I got that from her, but I did get it from a lot of other people. Our educational system sets up our processes this way as well. Those who do well get highlighted, right? We focus on the ones who have accomplished things. And our society, unfortunately, is built that way as well. So I learned how to get love, attention, and affection from others outside of my home. And that was enough motivation for me to like, keep chasing the goals. And
And
so
that you did.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that the good girl can show up as an adult is maybe I stay small.
Mm,
I never allow myself to be bad in air quotes or have a rebellious energy, which also I want to say you could have became the rebel as a
mhm.
little kid to gain attention, love, and affection as well. But if you look at your adult life, what you want to do is say, okay, where is this pattern, this survival strategy showing up in my life now? Right? Because when I was little, I was chasing worthiness. I was wanting to be accepted. I was wanting to be loved, seen, safe. And they work for a long time. For example, for you, Isela, you got a PhD,
Mhm.
right? Often our survival strategies help us survive and they serve us for a long time. And then at some point in your life, they stop serving you.
Mhm.
And now we want to invite you to take a look at that, take stock of that. Where are you showing up in your life as this survival strategy? And is it serving you?
Yeah, I think fawning is a really big one that unfortunately a lot of women have.
Mhm.
Um, at least in my field of work, I've seen fawning as such, it's almost like an identity
Yeah.
that I'm the one who helps.
Hmm.
I'm the one who takes care of everything. I'm the one who they call on when they need something. And it feels good to be that person. And it feels good to be able to help. And so it becomes part of our identity. The problem is sometimes we give and we do too much.
Yes.
And then we lose sight of our own needs. And the unfortunate part of this is that sometimes we don't notice that it's happening until our health takes a hit,
Yes.
that
Mhm.
our bodies start to go, I can't do this anymore. You're not resting the way that you need. You're not taking time for yourself the way that you need. And because we're not listening, and our body whispers, it whispers with aches and pains, and also menopause happens.
Yes.
So that's a whole other thing. But it whispers. And we have learned, I know I did, especially in my early 20s and 30s. I didn't know how to like pause. I didn't know how to be like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't be up for 18 hours of the day, right? Like I should
Mhm.
be sleeping. Like I didn't have that information or that wisdom at that point in my life. And
Mhm.
so your body starts to say, hey, listen, we need to do something about it. And sometimes that's like inflammation even. And
Yes.
so there are so many ways that we get messages about what it is we need to do to put ourselves first, but we're in the pattern, in the habit of ignoring those things. And so taking stock, as you said, how are these early survival strategies now showing it up in my life is an integral part of recognizing and honoring who you are.
Right. Right. I see it often with women who are grandmothers
Mm,
and they start to do this work and they realize, oh, I am doing exactly what you said. I'm putting everybody in front of me. My body is falling apart. I'm not prioritizing myself. But what often happens is they start to try to change and choose themselves and say no or say not this time. And man, that inner critic, I'm selfish voice comes up really loud.
yeah.
Like I am so selfish and they feel so unsafe because they feel like if I do anything for myself, that means I'm selfish and God forbid I'm selfish. Like I should never be selfish is what that message was as a kid. So
Yes.
it can feel very uncomfortable if you not only identify and take stock, but then also try to change the pattern. It can feel quite uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think step three, our last step will help with that feeling of discomfort as it arises as I try to be like, okay, for example, I'm going to speak my truth today, but I've always pushed my truth down. That can feel like death. You could feel really afraid to do that. This speaking from experience here. And
Mhm.
speaking from someone who had a fawn response my whole life, I want to like make sure that you know what a fawn response is. Some people will equate it to people pleasing, which is true, but I want you to understand that people pleasing isn't just me trying to please you. It's me being who I think you want me to be so I can be safe. So I'm just not running around trying to please everybody. I'm actually running around trying to keep myself safe.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I won't speak up, or maybe I'll say what you want me to say, or I think you want me to say. And so what you want to look at is, where are you holding your tongue, not having an opinion, things like that. And if you have woken up in your late 30s and 40s and said, I don't even know who I am, that's a real big clue that you've been in survival.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, as you were talking about fawning, so I didn't fawn for the reasons of keeping myself safe. I guess in the ultimate, yes, I did. But what I did was make myself small so you wouldn't be uncomfortable.
Oh.
And that happens a lot in our workforce. And it happens a lot with us women of color, where we are in rooms where we're invited to the table, but our opinion really isn't
Mm.
asked. Like, no one really wants to know what you think. You just are invited to the table. And I remember at times playing small just so I wouldn't make other people feel uncomfortable.
Oh,
And yeah, ultimately that is a way to keep myself safe, right? But I wasn't consciously aware that I was doing that, because it's something that we are taught, implicitly taught,
definitely.
from the time that we are very young. Where is it safe enough for me to be able to be my true self, or where do I have to kind of minimize who I am
Yeah.
so that other people aren't uncomfortable with?
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, like if you shine bright, what will they say about you? Will
yeah,
they invite you back to the room? Will they feel threatened? Like there's a lot going on there,
yes.
right? Ah, yeah. There's a lot going on in number two. I'd like to put it in a tangible step, and it might just be sitting down with a journal and recounting, who did I have to be to get love from mom or dad?
Mhm.
Love, attention, or affection. Who did I have to be? Something will pop in.
I think another question is also, how did I receive love from those closest to me, from my caregivers? So what did that look like? What did I have to do to receive those things?
Mm.
Because if you can figure out like what you had to do to get noticed, to get seen and heard, and if you were never seen and heard, how did you then turn when you turn away from family? And I don't mean turn away in a bad way, but what happens in our early years is we're learning ways to be in the world, right? How we receive and give love happens in those formative years. And then when we turn away from family and we look at friends and relationships outside of the home, we bring that foundational knowledge with us. So then we go, okay, how did this impact my experience moving into my relationships with others? And that doesn't have to be intimate relationships, it could be all relationships.
Yeah.
So being like curious about what did or how did we receive
Mm.
love in my home from my caregivers, well, is a really good indication of how that might be showing up for you now.
For sure. That reminds me of a situation where a young girl didn't get the attention, right, that she needed, the nurturing, the attention. And so she internalized that as, I have no value.
Mhm.
And then she spent the rest of her life trying to prove her value,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So there's just an example there for you.
Okay, so for number three, we're going to explore the way that you respond to stressors in your life. Okay. And sometimes it takes a minute to really figure out what it is you're doing. What happens when something overwhelms you? What happens? Do you want to fight? Do you want to, like, I'm out? I Nope, I don't want to have this conversation right now. I need to leave. Do you freeze? And sometimes freeze can look lots of different ways, but one that quickly comes to me is where your throat tightens. And you're like, I don't know what to say. All thoughts and rational like ideas are just locked in place. Like you can't access that information. And then there's the fawning. We're like, whatever you want. We'll do whatever makes you happy. You may not say that, but it might be in your actions where you just quiet down your inner need, your opinion, your thoughts, your ideas. You just silence that. And then you go along with whatever is needed of you. So, what happens to you when you are overwhelmed with the situation in your life?
Hmm. Such amazing questions to help you identify them. And I'll just give you an example of me, myself. So my two top, some of us have more than one. My two top stress responses when I'm overwhelmed is number one, freeze.
Mm.
And I will tell you, I definitely resonate with like the tightening of the throat. Sometimes we won't notice the body at first,
Right.
but I want you to look at your like your habits when you're like, I've had enough, I've had a hard day, I'm out of here. Or like I just need to turn on the TV and watch Netflix over and over and over again, like for hours. Or I need to just sit on my phone and scroll. And you kind of don't realize that you've been scrolling for the last 2 hours
Mm.
until you say, oh, I should probably get up, and you feel kind of frozen there, for lack of better words, frozen or numb, or you just feel numbed out. That's a sign that you might be in freeze. And the other one for me is fawning or appeasing. Let's just be who I think you want me to be. Or my version of fawning sometimes is I just won't say anything at all.
Mhm.
Like even though I might not agree with what the person's saying, I just won't say anything.
Mhm.
Right? So I don't have to face rejection, and I don't have to face any opposite opinion of me, and I can just be I think you need me to be.
I kind of want to explore that just a little bit further because
Mhm.
I think that there's something within us when we fawn, right? That isn't that because sometimes I make the conscious decision not to say something.
Mhm.
But the reason why I do it is it worth my time and energy? Do I really want to open this can of worms? Am I going to be able to help change their ideas, their perspectives? Do I have a need for this person to know what it is that I'm thinking and feeling?
Mhm.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think when that's a conscious decision, when you're going, okay, let me kind of think about the players
Yeah.
here and whether this is something that I want to. Do we have time? Do we have time to have this conversation right now? See,
Mhm.
those things come from, I think, a place of I recognize what I believe
Yes.
and I want to make a conscious decision as to whether I want to share this with this person, right? Because sometimes the answer is no.
Yeah.
But when you fawn, when you're truly fawning, you almost don't even know what your belief is.
Mm-mm.
It's hazy. And I think what becomes the internal struggle is when you start to do your personal work in understanding who you truly are and what it is that you need, it becomes challenging because you're like, but I think something different.
Yeah.
But I want some, like that awareness starts to come to play. Whereas
Mhm.
before, I don't even think true fawn, like people, I don't want to say true fawners, like the ones who are experts on fawning. I think fawners have fawned for so long, they don't even have an opinion.
That was me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you said if you are taking time to discern,
Right.
you're discerning, that's not fawning,
Yeah.
right? You don't know you're fawning when you're fawning, and
Mhm.
it's very quick. It's like you imagine I'm stressed, I have a response very quick.
Mhm.
um what dropped in for me was like a animal under stress response, the primal part of an animal. For example, if an animal is being attacked, it might run, right? Or it might try to play dead.
Mhm. You know what's funny is you skipped the first one, which is your least one.
Fight.
Ina is not, her stress response is not fight. That is not her first go-to.
Yeah.
So in telling the story right now, she literally skipped
I
over that one.
literally skipped it.
What happens sometimes when we become overwhelmed, we can actually go through all four of them. So like for me, I do fight. So when somebody goes blah 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 blah, I'm like, I'm ready to go. And I think that's what made me a really effective leader, actually, because it's like when something happened, I moved right into action. I was like, okay, let's figure out what we got to do. We got to da 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 da, and I think it worked for me. And then the adrenaline would come afterwards. But that ability to move into action, right, is our stress response system. And so we fight, and to your point, the animal in the wild getting attacked, their initial reaction is going to fight back. And then they're like, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to win here. And so they try to run, but the animal that's chasing them is way faster than them. And so they're like, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to outrun them. So then I'm going to freeze and then sometimes collapse, because if I play dead, some animals don't like, once they're dead, they're looking for an animal that's alive so they can do the kill, right?
Yes.
So then they fall and they collapse, they play dead. And so thinking about a situation in your life, how do you respond when you're overwhelmed? Do you fight back, want to defend yourself, want to tell you all the reasons why you are right and they are wrong? Sometimes pulling in old information from the past, because a lot of us are really good at that. And or do you just want to check, like, I'm out. I'm gonna go wash the dishes. I'm gonna go do something. And I'm not saying it's not, again, consciously, if you are consciously saying, I need a minute to walk away from this situation, is very different than saying, I'm out, F you, getting in my car, never coming back. Right.
A couple examples for you in like daily life of the fight response. Fight response can show up in perfectionism. It can also show up the fixer of all your family's things. I'm just going to go fix everything because I know how to do it. Nobody else knows better than me. Sometimes it shows up like that. The flight can show up as you have a whole to-do list, but you are the avoider of the list because you're too overwhelmed. You go look at it, you're so overwhelmed, and you just avoid it. I'm just going to pretend it's not there. But in the back of your mind, it's there. So that's how flight can show up. Freeze, obviously, we're going to be doing something also to avoid, but it's more of, like you said, that you notice the tightness in the body, you notice the clenching. Sometimes it's the throat, sometimes it's the butt cheeks, sometimes it's you've got pain somewhere in your body. Mine is often upper back. There's some clenching or bracing happening, and you're just you feel frozen in life. You feel stuck. If it's a true, like, say, like, I don't want to say blunt trauma, a true, what's an example? Maybe like, if you get in a car accident
Like an
and
emergency
an
situation.
emergency situation, you'll see your nervous system go through. You can go through a couple of these, and you can see yourself just completely in freeze, right?
Yeah, what's happening physiologically is that when there is an emergency situation or perception of an emergency situation, because it is your brain perceiving this, it basically does an all call in the body, and it says, okay, we need to prepare because we're not safe. We need to prepare for an emergency situation. So all of your blood like it literally flows to your extremities because it's preparing for you to take off or to fight back. So what happens is your brain goes offline, and your organs and all of the things that make your body function actually take a second, like the back seat, because your extremities, your fingers, your hands, your feet, they're ready to go. And so if you live in this chronic state of like high stress, you're not actually functioning in an optimal way because you're in a constant state of survival, which means that blood flow, oxygen flow through the body is not in its optimal,
Yeah.
because you are preparing all the time to react. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the hypervigilance. And
Hmm.
so that is what, honestly, it creates all of these medical issues. We know that now,
Hmm.
that our emotional state of being is directly connected to our physical well-being.
Before we go into like some helpful tool to work with the nervous system, I want to share what sometimes a peace can look like in real like daily life. Have you ever known somebody that they could just be going through something terribly hard in their life and you would think that they're definitely not happy, but they're walking around smiling, right? They're just smiling at everyone. Sometimes this is spiritual bypassing, but sometimes it's I can't be a mess and I want to like I want to make sure you're okay. I'm just going to pretend I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm fine, they say. And I even have clients like this that come, I know they're holding big things and they're just smiling the whole time, and they just smile at everyone. And this was something I used to do. I used to think that like I can't look mean, you know? I can't just not smile. I have to look like
You have to
kind
be a
and
good girl.
nice. To be a good girl. Yeah.
Nobody wants to know your problems. You
No.
just need to be a good girl.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
used to actually get, as you were talking, I used to get men who would approach me, because I guess I would scowl quite a bit. And I'm just like at the store, and they would approach me and say, "You need to smile. You're
Mm.
so pretty. You need to smile." And my reaction to that was never to smile. My reaction was like, "Fuck you." That was wow. So there's the fight.
Right. Mine would have been like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. So that's a really good example of how your body just responds in
Yeah.
different situations, right?
Yeah. And almost mine wouldn't have been, oh, thank you. It would have been like I was doing something wrong.
Hmm.
Also, appease also looks like apologizing for everything.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like I also have experience with clients that tell me they're sorry constantly because they were crying. I'm sorry. So this was my lived experience too. I would apologize for everything. I would think that, oh, I better be really perfect for this person because then they'll like me.
I have come across so many people who apologize constantly. And I find that really fascinating, because what I hear when somebody says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry for I'm crying," or I didn't hold the door well for you." It was like things that were like, "Why are you apologizing?" What I hear is, "I'm sorry for my existence."
Mm,
That's what I hear every time someone does that. And so if you are somebody who is someone who says, "I'm sorry," without, it's just a pattern,
yeah.
just add that little part. Am I really sorry for my existence? Because there are no mistakes about you being here. You are worthy simply because you exist.
Mhm.
Simply because you exist, you are worthy. So stop apologizing.
So now we're going to go into one example of how to support your nervous system while your nervous system goes through stress responses on its own. You want to have a tool in your toolkit. And I believe one of the best tools that we have that our creator gave to humans is your breath, the power of your own breath. One of my favorite tools to use to help bring regulation into the body, and what you really want to know about regulation is nervous system regulation equals nervous system safety. It doesn't always equal calm, it just creates a space in your nervous system that you're a little bit more safe than you were before you use the tool. And that's going to help you access your intellectual, logical thinking brain where you can make a powerful choice in the moment. A choice that's conscious instead of a choice that's unconscious from the nervous system response. So, my favorite breathing exercise or breathing tool is called the physiological sigh. And it is shown to reduce stress. And the reason why I like it um, for all of the nervous system responses is it helps you create some safety in your body, but it can also keep you out of the freeze response. Meaning, let's say you have a really stressful life, or full life, as I like to call it. If you use this breathing exercise throughout your day, you're going to be emptying that stress out of your vessel, and you won't be in fight or flight so long that your body lands in, that freeze at night. So the physiological sigh looks like this. You take 2 sips of air through your nose like this. And then on the exhale, you exhale with the sigh. Yeah. So I always say to people, do this 4 times in a row. There you go. Yep. Inhaling through your nose, 2 sips. Exhale with a sigh. The sigh itself shows your animal body that we're safe. If you were being chased by a tiger, you would not be doing a sigh. So that outward sigh tells your nervous system that, like, yeah, we're safe. And notice, like, your shoulders will drop. Sometimes if your muscles are clenched anywhere in your body, you will notice them drop. And you can't get it wrong. But I recommend doing that breath 4 times in a row. And I recommend, if you are someone who often lives in what you might say fight or flight, or I'm always stressed, or if you always say I'm so busy all the time, I'm always doing something, and you feel stressful in your body, I recommend you doing it several times a day. So you can bring some safety into your body. And then that's just for maintenance. And then when you find yourself like in a stress response, meaning I notice I go into that fight that I usually do, that feeling, that fight pattern, or I notice I looked at my to-do list and I ran away, or I was in a conversation and I was like, no, I'm not doing this, I'm leaving. That's when you're going to want to bring that tool in right away. How can I bring the safety in right in this moment to interrupt this pattern?
So here's the spiritual piece to this. So when we work with our physiological body and our intellectual aspect of the self, that is our knowing and our body, to understand when it's helpful, like when I'm now moving into a state of like I am overwhelmed by this moment, and noticing that is the first step. Also, you have an aspect of yourself that has deep inner wisdom, and I work with angels. And so, in the beginning, when I don't trust that inner wisdom, when I don't even know how to access my intuitive nature, which is your connection to source, that's the connection to the all that is. In the beginning, because we've been trained to silence that part of ourselves, we've been trained to believe that we don't actually have that the answer is, the people who are leading maybe our churches or the religion that we have grown up with, that they're the ones who have the information that's been given by God. You actually have that within you. We just, in the beginning, don't know how to access or trust that. So, what I did in the very beginning was I called upon my angels. I called upon Archangel Raphael as the angel for emotional and physical well being. And so in the beginning, when you're kind of like, I'm not sure how to do this effectively. I don't know if I can do this effectively, because quite honestly, in the moment, you're not wanting to access these tools and strategies. This is why Nina shared, do this breath a lot. And I mean like a lot. Do it in the shower. Do it before as you're getting dressed. Do it before you get into your car. Do it a lot, because what you're doing is you're creating new patterns. Mm-hmm. And you will not be able to access this naturally if you're in the moment and you're in a freak out place. You're not going to be able to access it. But if you create the pattern that now my body has a tool that I can access when I'm in that freak out place, it's much more natural to get to that knowing, even in an overwhelmed state, because you've created that in your mind. So Archangel Raphael, you can call upon and say, help guide me to the tool that I am learning how to utilize when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed. But you have to invite the angels in. You have to invite them to guide you. And you can even ask your own guides because we all have at least two of them. So you can ask whatever resonates with you. It could be an angel, it could be your guides, it could be your grandma who passed on. Just invite them in to provide that support that you actually do have an inner wisdom and inner knowing. And they will, it's like this little tiny whisper that you'll hear. That's them saying, access the tool, do the thing that you're learning how to do.
So if you found this video helpful, we want to invite you to come to our community. We have a community called the Love Being Community where we talk about all of this and more. We combine spirituality and trauma healing, and we actually have a free healing library. So we invite you to check that out. So be sure to check out the description box below. We'll link to that. And then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so that way you know when we post our next teaching. And if you like teachings like this and you have a harsh inner critic, I want to invite you to watch this video right here where we teach you how to heal your inner critic. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.